Hey, good morning, guys. Crackhead trucker here at 2 a.m. I actually just woke up from a little power nap. I'm sitting in a rest area. I'm um, I'm heading home in in a pickup truck. I dropped the old Mac off at the yard in the Permian Basin. They're gonna do some maintenance stuff to it, get it kind of squared away. And I'm heading home for a little personal time with the family. I mentioned in some of my other videos, my daughter's birthday's coming up, and in fact, the pickup truck I'm driving home, I'm bringing it home so she can practice in it to get her license. She's got her learner's permit, and I'll probably just let her drive this for a while. I'd rather she drive a full-size pickup truck than, going out. I mean, you can go lease a brand new Honda Civic for just a couple $100 a month, and that wouldn't be that big a deal. It'd be really reliable and everything else. Um, that compared to putting her in the wife's Tahoe, that thing carries a hefty price tag on it. And we all know new drivers, they're going to find mailboxes and curbs. And, I kind of teased her a little bit and said, I'd rather you hit the pickup truck on stuff than your mom's Tahoe. Um, Unfortunately, I really just don't have beaters at the house that she can drive for a while. The beaters are, most of them I moved out to the oil field because they get beat up over there. But this pickup truck's not bad. If I remember right, it's a 2019. I did run it around quite a bit, so it's got, 80,000 miles on it, and, you know, the payments are real low because we bought it right. So I guess you could say it's almost like her birthday gift. So she is kind of looking forward to getting her hands on this. We're going to work on it together and, you know, polish out the paint because it's got some scratches and, clean out the interior. It's got stains from where, sodas were dropped and stuff like that. Maybe I'll make a little video on it later if anyone cares. But my daughter's excited about it. Anyway, so I first off wanted to catch up a little bit on some of my notifications and comments you guys have made. Honestly, like I've said, guys, the channel is growing at a little bit faster a pace than I expected. Um, the popularity of Amazon, I think, is mostly responsible for that. Um, you guys like the content, which is cool. I'll keep working on getting you guys what you want and what you need so you can make the right decision either for your career or for your business path. Um, I do want to say that I know sometimes it sounds like I'm being grumpy with you guys in my videos. Um, it's just sometimes I feel like I can't stress enough, don't go diving in head first into a pool that only has 3 inches of water. Um, I know it seems like I beat up on the box truck guys over the last couple days. I really don't see it um, as very viable. I myself don't see being able to sustain a company. Now, if it was just me and I didn't have a family to support and a house payment and car payments, if it was just me and I was going to make a few bucks and I was going to try and reinvest that money and grow it, maybe. Um, there's far more profit in a semi truck. And to that end, not only semi truck, but semi truck where you bring your own trailer. Honestly, power only, you're being robbed. You're being robbed. The power only guys, I know they feel like they're a step ahead um, of the box truck guys. The reality is, if you compare power only rates to bring your own trailer rates, it's sometimes double, and you can rent a trailer for, let's say, 500 a month. You can insure them for like 300 for the year. Why do you think Amazon provides you the trailer but not the power unit? They're letting us carry that burden, guys. And so I don't even think power only is a good market. And maybe I'll beat up on that next. I say that with all due respect. So let me kind of go down some notifications here because I'll forget and then I won't touch on the topics. And honestly, lately I haven't had the time to go in and type out replies. I've been driving a lot, and as you guys know, it's illegal and it's difficult to text and type stuff as you're driving. I've tried using my phone's talk to text feature. For some reason, this newest phone is the worst at it. I don't know why. My old Note 4 that I had 10 years ago, I could halfway through a sentence switch to Spanish and it wouldn't miss a beat. I got the S20 Plus 5 or whatever they call it, and I'm gonna be honest, it sucks. I've never liked iPhones. It's kind of like anything else. I've learned how Androids work, and my mind works like an Android works. The wife and daughter both have iPhones. Every time I pick them up, I get kind of frustrated, and so I stay away from them. But I gotta admit, this phone is making me want to switch to an iPhone. It's that frustrating to me in a lot of aspects. Anyways, this isn't about phones. Let's get a quick look here. Sammy, I want to say I just did Indianapolis, Indiana a couple videos ago, but I'll do it again here today. And thanks for being a new subscriber, bro. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Okay, yes. I caught this message about adding this other application that does box van and courier van type loads. I'm going to check that out. If it doesn't take me or cost me anything to get access to their board, in other words, if I just got to send them like a carrier package and I can have access to the board, I may just do that for the sake of showing viewers, there's other avenues. As you've commented, if you strictly do it based on Amazon, box truck is difficult to make money at. Because let's face it, guys, Amazon is having us do that work because they can't do it in a way that they make money or cover their cost. And again, Amazon's not dumb. When something isn't cost effective for them, they farm it out. They have others do it so they can stick to their part of the business that makes the money. This is why they give us box truck loads. I don't believe it's profitable. I don't believe standalone it's going to be a viable business. Now, I've said that several times. I know there's a few guys that are making money at it. And let me just say, there are guys that got in at the right time and they have dedicated contracts, and typically a dedicated contract pays a little better. And so those guys got in at the right time, at the right place. And I know some markets are better than others. I haven't figured out which ones those are. And so I know I'm beating them up. But if you say, hey, can you look at box truck out of Phoenix? All I can do is show you what's in Phoenix. And the last few times I've looked, there's like 1 or 2 loads. I'm not going to say to you, hey, this looks promising, man, jump on it. Anyways, so I'm not trying to sound like a negative Debbie Downer. I'm trying to point out the gaping holes in your idea that are going to swallow you up and you're going to lose your investment. That's what I'm trying to do, guys. If you're still going to go forward, I'm going to wish you well. And if I can offer you advice and hopefully help keep you out of those holes, if you're going to go forward in spite of, my 2 cents, I'm still going to be your support mechanism and try to help you through it if I can through my videos. To that end, a couple people have asked if I do consulting. I've never really thought of it. I did help a buddy out a few years back. He started a building supply company, and I helped him with a lot of stuff regarding trucking. Now, granted, the guy was like 22, 23 years old, and he had a master's degree in business. Very intelligent individual. Didn't need a whole lot from me. He learned a lot on his own, but some of the things where, you just need a little bit more experience, like, hey, I'm going to be doing short haul, hauling heavy loads on and off of construction sites. What type of truck fits this best? that's where my experience came in. And I helped him buy some trucks, and I brought him some customers and stuff like that. And yeah, he did pay me what you would call a consulting fee or a commission or whatever. I never thought about doing it for this type of work. Let me throw that idea around. If you guys have an interest in me offering some one-on-one consulting to you, drop a comment just so I know, if I'm gonna research and see what's a fair rate, and how could I fit a schedule that revolves around my driving shifts versus resting. How can I fit that in a way that serves you, my potential client, and still allows me to conduct business and not interfere too much. Plus, I got to figure out what's a fair rate. I don't really know what that type of thing pays. Anyways, so Scott, yeah, I agree with you. I kind of, I'm one of those people that can look at something and kind of quickly say, that's not going to make money. Yes, I also like to make, spreadsheets and do analysis and stuff like that. It's definitely the smart way to do it. The loads coming out of Ontario, I would have to show you all the stops, I would have to do kind of a specific video. This is for Jonathan. I'd have to do a specific video just on Ontario, primarily because when you try to open up and show every single stop on a tour, it slows the video way down, and so it would make for hours-long video if I try to cover multiple markets. And I know our conversation here is already going to make this video longer than it should be. A couple new subscribers, thank you guys very much. Newbie, the biggest concern I would have for you with a brand new CDL and jumping into your own authority is that you get some of your authority things wrong. By that I mean, when you get your own authority, you're obviously going to be put into the new entrant program, which means there's an audit coming, and there's some steps you need to take to make sure you do it right. One of the biggest and most critical ones are based on your drug screening program. If you operate your truck commercially one day before establishing your program and having your driver tested, and you have the negative result in hand, in other words, if you receive the negative result on Friday, but your driver started on Thursday and they can prove it, they can suspend you or revoke you, and you'll lose your authority. And so there are some steps you need to take to make sure you're doing this thing correctly. It's this kind of jump that creates really high insurance premiums for new authorities, primarily because a lot of companies jump in and within their first year of being in business, they have a very serious accident with a major lawsuit, and insurance companies, they figure this out quickly. So if you're going to go that route, I recommend you do sign up with some kind of consulting firm that will put together a complete packet that you then basically grow from, if you will. In other words, they'll create driver files, they'll help you establish your drug screening program and consortium. That's a new requirement now. Your consortium started as of this year. And so you want to be careful jumping in like that. Honestly, I would recommend to most people to run under somebody else's authority for like a year or 6 months. And in doing so, you would learn how that company is doing it. And if you make a mistake, honestly, it goes on their CSA score and not yours. That's kind of my 2 cents on it. Another new subscriber, thank you very much. Iron Addict. The conversation of semi-truck versus hotshot, I assume that's what you're referring to with the Ram 3500. I did hotshotting in the oil field. My hotshotting was short haul exemption, basically within 150 miles, non-CDL, we charged hourly from the time the truck left the yard to the time it got back to the yard. I do not personally believe that a pickup truck is made for long haul. And the plain and simple reality, the reason I don't do it even now, if you go out and buy yourself a brand new pickup truck, Ram 3500, let's just say you don't even get it loaded like a lot of these guys do. You get a plain Jane ST model or whatever they call the newest ones. You get like just the work version of the truck. You're into it for about 50 grand, okay? Now, if you have decent credit and you can find these things at 0% interest, your payment's still going to come out pretty close to $1,000 a month. Run that truck, as most people do, and put 100,000 miles a year on that truck. 4 years later, you have 400,000+ miles on the truck. You're upside down in your equity in the truck. In other words, you have negative equity, but you're ready for a new truck because it's starting to give you issues. You keep having to rebuild the front end. You're realizing that you're replacing tires every 3 months. That's something to consider. Even though manufacturers say these trucks are commercial grade, they're really not. Hot shotters are replacing tires every 3 months on these trucks. Keep that in mind. They like to tell you that running a big rig is more costly, but everything on a big rig is designed to go the long haul. A pickup truck is not. I do not view pickup truck over the road as a viable investment in terms of return on investment from the vehicle itself. A semi truck, if you watch some of my videos, you'll see the ones I'm running right now. I paid $20,000 for them, and the one I'm in right now, I just did the math. I parked it. It has 900,000 miles on it. I should have done a little video, like a little celebration for her. She just turned 900,000 miles. I bought that particular truck in the mid 700s for $20,000, and I just hit 900,000 miles with it. I sold 2 of this truck's sisters. I bought a package of 4. I sold 2 of them for $30,000 a piece, even though I bought them for $20 a piece. You can't do that with a pickup truck. It's just, that's the way I look at that one. On the Cascadia thing, I don't have experience with anything newer than a Columbia. I don't know how the Cascadias are built by comparison. I know the newer Detroit engines have had some emission issues. I know that the turbo compounding ones are definitely having issues. If you don't have either of those, ideal. They're not as fuel efficient. The pre-turbo compound motors are not as fuel efficient as the turbo compound ones are. And I know I'm contradicting myself there, but my kid brother works at a Peterbilt dealership. They just hired a mechanic from a Freightliner dealership, and that guy apparently at Freightliner, all he did was break those things down, the Detroit motor, to address issues they're having with the newest ones. As far as the Cascadia body goes, I can't tell you. If I compare it to a Mack truck, they're more comfortable. The Freightliners are. They feel more modern. If you jump in a truck like mine, which is a 2012, the dash, with the exception of a few changes they made, it's the same as the new Anthem on the inside. It's the same basic shape. They changed a couple panels with newer gauges. Otherwise, it's the same cab structure, and you can go back to like 2008, and they're the same truck. I think Mack's philosophy is, we built a strong truck, and it's a capable truck. They are very solid. You know, my 2011s and 2012s and 2013s, you know, even running through the oil field, my cabs aren't falling apart. It's a very strong chassis and cab. The weakness to those trucks is the Volvo engine, to be honest. Pros and cons on that video. Honestly, it wasn't intended to be a pro and con. It's financials, bro. It's money. And so money should be a pro, not a con. And so if you want me to say, what are the pros? Because I looked at the cons, you shouldn't go into business. We're in this to make money. Amazon is in this to make money. And honestly, they're giving us the part that they can't make money at. And we need to be very savvy at what we do to still, you know, try and skin that cat in a way that we get something for our pocket. That's just kind of the reality of it. Yes, the quote for 20K for a new authority is not out of the question. I've heard quotes as high as $40,000 a year. The number I used at 12,000 was very conservative. I just wanted to give like a baseline figure so that someone can look at this thing and say, you know, here I am. I invested whatever 20 grand to start my business, and there's $900 left over at the end of the week. You know, I was making more money doing something else before. The question, did I get home every day? You know what? Honestly, I didn't do box truck work, so I can't tell you if those guys are making it home every day or not. Yep, not worth it. New subscriber, thank you. You're welcome. The Jersey market, I'm going to cover that today. The Mack trucks, I got a video uploaded on there. Dada, you're welcome. I made a video specifically to answer this question. That was where I did the math. MA, you know what? Honestly, first of all, I appreciate the respect with which you countered my point. I really do respect that you didn't say, hey, you're a knucklehead, you're wrong. But I went back and looked at the video, and every single one of those origin points are coming from a Amazon location. If you look at Amazon locations, or if you look at those what am I trying to say? When you're looking at the load board, Amazon locations start with 3 letters which match the nearest airport that services it, and then a number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And so Ontario, for example, is ONT1, ONT2, ONT3, and so on. I think they're up to like 8 or 9. And so even right now, when we get ready to go through the load board, you'll see your origin is not a postal, it's not a post office. The origin for the box truck loads, at least on the video we're talking about, they were all Amazon fulfillment centers out to non-Amazon fulfillment centers. Des Moines, Iowa. I thought I did that one before. Let me see if I can get on that. And I'm gonna switch over here to I'm gonna get started on the load board. Otherwise, this video is gonna get ridiculously long, and no one will stick around till we get to the load board. I only have you guys as an audience for so long. The analytical show, people give up and click away if I don't get to the point. But I just wanted to reply to some of the comments. You know, again, appreciate the comments, guys. Appreciate the love and respect. That's awesome. So here we're looking at Charlotte, North Carolina. I think someone asked for that. And so here we have a team's load leaving West Columbia, heading to Miami, Florida. It's a one-way, pays $327, which is actually good for a team load. The problem's going to be leaving Miami, you're probably going to get $1.30, and it's probably not going to be a team load, which means at the other end of your delivery, you're going to get there too early and have to sit around and wait. That's the drawback. Here we have a trailer required, 572 miles, $342 per mile. There we have a load for 1,300 miles, heading out to Jersey. It's a team load, $2 a mile. Here we have 366 miles heading to Kentucky. Pays 258 miles. That is a trailer required. Here's a power only load at 1199 miles. Pays $1.97 per mile. That's heading out to the Delaware area. There's another load for 405 miles heading to Florida. Team load 1.83 per mile. There's a 1,300 mile tour. This is going to leave West Columbia, come back to West Columbia, 1,300 miles. And this is basically what you would consider almost like a solo two. Basically, it's a 2-day trip, but it's a team's load. Pays $1.88 per mile. Here you have 706 on the miles. This one's going to Indiana. Pays $2.21 per mile. This is a trailer required. Here's another trailer required, 931 on the miles. Pays $2.33 per mile. There's a 600-mile trip. This is a power only. Teams for $1.91 per mile. That's heading also to Florida. There's a 600-mile also to Florida for $1.73. There's a 1365 loop. This is what they call a tour. Power only for $1.94 a mile. There's one going from Charlotte out to Euclid, Ontario. 532 miles, paying $1.80 a mile. There's 405 miles, also heading to Florida. It's a team's power only for $1.83 per mile. There's 1,019 miles. This is also a power only for $1.87. 565 miles at $1.89 per mile heading to Jersey. This is, you got to bring your own trailer. There's 745 miles heading out to Illinois. This is you bring your own trailer for $1.84 per mile. There is 536 miles heading out to Logan Township. I don't remember what state that's in. That's in Jersey. It pays $1.70 a mile. And at this point, we are into Sunday, so I'll stop it there. Doesn't appear that there were any box truck loads. So if that was your curiosity, was about box trucks, there were none as of now through Sunday. Someone requested Everett, Washington. I believe I just did Washington and Oregon, but since I'm not really familiar out there, I'm going to do this just because I don't know if your area is within. I would have probably done Seattle. So if you're not within, 100 miles of Seattle, this may have not shown up. So here we have a team's load, power only. This is what they call a tour. Basically, you're going to go out and back, 980 miles. Basically, it's a one-day loop. Pays 1.74 per mile, or $1,700. Here we have another power-only teams tour, 1,094 miles for $178. There you have another power-only trip. This one is a one-way, 279 miles for $149 per mile. Here's something they unlocked. 1157 on the miles, pays $206 per mile, heading to Henderson, Nevada, which is basically Las Vegas. If you guys aren't familiar, Henderson and Las Vegas they're butted up against each other. You could literally cross the street and you're in the next city. Um, there's another tour. It's a solo tour. This is basically what they would call a solo one. So this will be like local stuff, 302 miles at $1.62 per mile, pays $4.90. $4.90 total. Here's another one, 302 miles at $1.62. There's a power only one way heading down to Fresno, 907 miles at 1.79 per mile. 696 miles one way heading to Reno, Nevada, pays $1.80 per mile, and that'll give you a total of $12.53. A little cheap in my mind. 920 miles to Fresno, California, $1.79 per mile, pays $16.44. There's another one heading to Fresno. There's one heading to Mira Loma, $11.69 on the miles. That is a power only one way, and it pays $1.69 per mile. There's a one way heading to Bakersfield, power only, 1,023 miles, pays $1.69 per mile. There's 907 miles heading to Fresno, same as the last one, $1.69 per mile. There's another one to Reno, 696 miles for $1.80 per mile. There's 1170 miles heading to Fontana, $1.69 per mile. There's another one heading to Fontana, another one heading to Fontana. There's one going to Mira Loma, which is $11.69 on the miles for $1.69. If you're not familiar, Fontana, Ontario, and Mira Loma, they're all within like 10 miles of each other. They're just on opposite sides of the freeway from each other, but they're in that Inland Empire area, as they call it. There is a load going to Bakersfield, 1,023 miles, pays $1.69. So if you're up in that Washington area, you can kind of count on $1.69 if you're looking at doing power only loads. That's about what you're going to be getting. 107 miles heading to Fresno for $1.69. 1170 heading to Fontana for $1.69. 907 to Fresno, $1.69. 1168 to Fontana for $1.69. Bakersfield at 1,023 miles for $1.69. There's Mira Loma for $1.69. Fontana for $1.69. There's Fontana for $1.69. Bakersfield for $1.69. Fresno for $1.69. Bakersfield, $1.69. So it seems like there's steady work coming south, daily, multiple loads. The $1.69 is the part that would concern me. I know it's power only and you don't have the overhead of the trailer, but a trailer is very cheap for the fact that it gives you on average $1 more per mile. That's just my opinion. You can rent one of these things for like $500 a month. I've had 4 of these things rented now for over 10 months, and my maintenance on them has been very minimal. I do more maintenance on the trucks than I do the trailers. So there's another Bakersfield Henderson for $1.39. They made that even cheaper. Henderson for $1.89. There's a Phoenix for $1.47. There's another Phoenix for $1.47. There's a Pasco, Washington for $1.69. That's a box truck. That's the first box truck I've seen. So if you're interested in box truck for that area, the first available load is not until Friday. There is a Fresno for $1.59. Mira Loma for $1.49. Reno for $1.60. Fresno for $1.59. Fontana for $1.49. And now we're into the weekend, guys, and so the rates are only going to get cheaper. I'm going to move on to another market. I think from this you kind of got the idea of what your market is up against. Let's switch over to Jersey. 69 results, which I think is kind of low. I would have expected Jersey to be busier. So the first one is one where you bring your trailer and you're going from an Amazon vendor. I alluded to the comment earlier that you can tell if it's an outside source versus a Amazon location. So here you see the top location that says 0-153042871. That is the vendor number that particular location has, and then it's delivering to JAX3, and so JAX is probably the call sign for the local airport in Jacksonville, and that is an Amazon location. So these are typical loads for your not power only, but where you bring your own trailer, where you're hauling from an Amazon vendor to what Amazon calls inbound. Anyway, so 925 miles for $283 per mile. Here's a power only for 44 miles. $592 per mile. Short little haul there. There's another one. Same thing, same city. Yeah, it looks like the same thing. 44 miles for $592 per mile. There's another one, same thing. There's one going to Charleston, Tennessee. This is trailer required, $765 on the miles, $280 per mile for $2,100. There's 107 miles. This is a trailer required load for $606 per mile. There is 898 miles for a trailer required load, $234 per mile, heading to Macon, Georgia. There is 1621 miles. This is a team power only, $177 per mile. There's 523 miles on a power only load heading to Maryland, $161 per mile. There's 275 miles heading to Pennsylvania, 278 per mile. There is 1634 miles heading to Teterboro, Jersey. That is a power only team load for $178 per mile. You got 1633 miles on a power only teams load. This one is a tour. So basically you'll be out and back to the same place in a day and a half for $193 per mile. This is another tour, 1,500 miles at $194 per mile. This one is a power only load, 255 miles. It looks like it's going to be a little just out and back, little round trip. 225 per mile. That's actually kind of not poorly paid on the mileage, but the time kind of hurts. You're gonna lose 8.5 hours for $575. I mean, if it would take you a little less time to do it, that wouldn't be a bad little load, I think. 1,593 miles for a round trip tour, team power only, paying $179. 56 miles heading to Somerset, Jersey. This is a trailer required load at $827 per mile. 769 miles heading to Goldsboro, Pennsylvania. This is a power only load. It's got multiple stops. It's going to take you a day and 8 hours. It's actually a round trip. My apologies. 237 per mile. That one's borderline. I think I'd consider that. 300 miles. This is another round trip. You're going to basically be out and back for $1.92 a mile. You'll finish that load in 7 hours. 123 miles. Power only. Going to Carlisle, Pennsylvania at $3.60 per mile. I will tell you, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, if you don't get a round trip out of there, you may not find a load through Amazon leaving there. At least that's been my experience. We went to Carlisle a couple times because it paid really well, and in that particular instance, I learned the hard way. Check the load board before you book and make sure there's outbound freight. I had a driver struggle to get out of there pretty bad once. So here we have 1941 miles. This one's another round trip, power only, pays $181 per mile. Here you have 635 miles. This is a team, one way out to Michigan, 172 per mile. 1252 miles, heading to Alabama. This is a power only team load for $179. You got 1561 miles, power only, heading to Coppell, Texas, which is basically Dallas. That's $1.71 per mile. I've been to that location. They're actually pretty organized. It works out there. Avoid going to FTW1 if you're going to the Dallas area. FTW1 is bad. The one in Coppell's not bad. 988 miles heading to Illinois. This is a power only team load for $162 per mile. 724 miles. This is another round trip, power only, 166 miles. This is another teams load, power only, round trip. For some reason, they had this one locked, and they unlocked it, 184 per mile. They usually lock loads that are like strategic, that for some reason people want them, and that way it's kind of like they reward the higher performing carriers. I'm not really sure what could be preferred about that load. Maybe it doesn't go to the horrible places that people don't normally want to go to. I'm not sure. So here we have 297 miles. This is a power only teams load, heading to Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Not really sure why they want to put teams on a 10-hour trip. They may be expecting a big delay on one end or the other. That's $1.83 per mile. 284 miles, power only, heading out to Hazleton, Pennsylvania. And again, it's like a one-day trip, but they're doing it as teams at $2 a mile. 2,900 miles, heading out to Oregon, pays $1.61 a mile for teams, power only. It's a big paycheck, but holy cow, is that cheap per mile. 129 on the miles, power only, heading to York, Pennsylvania, 288 per mile. I've been to York. I actually delivered, strangely enough, I delivered to a Mac warehouse in my Mac truck, and one of the guys from inside came out and took a picture of it, and I'm like, man, she's dirty. He's like, it doesn't matter. He goes, I like it when trucks come home, so to speak. I know it's kind of it's a side note no one cares to hear, but you know, I used my Mac truck to deliver Mac parts back to Mac. Anyway, there's another one going to York. There's 239 miles heading to Hazleton, Pennsylvania. This is a power only single driver, solo driver as they call it, at 268 per mile. There's 152 miles, Beginningsville is where that's going. Power only for 266. There's 480 miles heading to Charlotte, 252 per mile. And at this point, we're jumping into Friday. It does look like this market's active, but you'll notice we didn't see any box trucks. And so if that's what your interest was, between here and Friday, there's nothing for a box truck. But the market is overall pretty active. I assume there's box trucks in the area, but it may not be operating directly within 100 miles of where we selected in Jersey City. The box truck facility may be a little bit further out than that, or because the area is so densely populated, they may have assigned contracts to a handful of carriers. So, you know, if you're interested in box truck for that area, it may be just that the market's locked up already. There's Jersey. I don't remember if I did Indianapolis or not. I thought I started at the bottom and I'm working my way up. Sorry if I'm going over this again. I don't think I've covered this. So there we are going to Hebron, Kentucky. I know I mispronounced that. That's 123 miles. This is, you must provide your own trailer, $4.23 per mile. There's a 79-mile power-only trip to, it's a round trip. Monroe pays $3.80 per mile. There's 593 miles trailer required going to Baltimore for $3.63 per mile. That's not a bad paying load. I'd be interested in that. It's just under 600 miles. Going to take you a day and a couple hours, and it pays $2,100. I've been to Baltimore. I mean, I've been down to the docks in Baltimore. Just got to watch out for low bridges. So here we have a 669 mile out to Logan Township. This is a trailer required, $3.79 per mile. Are you guys noticing that when you require a trailer, the rates are much better than power only? And I've always said with Amazon, the sweet spot is like between 350 miles and 600 miles. That's where you get rates like this. You know, this is going to take you a day and it's $2,500. That's, in my opinion, guys, it's why I switched away from doing power only. I sat here and I dissected the market, kind of like we're doing right now, and I searched and I scratched, and I quickly realized, you know, we're leaving a lot of money on the table. I go rent a couple trailers for, you know, whatever, you know, $300 to $500. Well, I never found one for $300. The cheapest I found was $400. The most expensive I have found was $700. But the nicest ones I found were at like $500. It was basically a trucking company that was shutting down, and his trailers were paid for. Apparently he'd been buying them cash, and so he just rented out his trailers, and that's his only source of income now. He sold off the power units. I think some had debt on them still, and you know, for $500 a month, I make a lot more per mile, and I think it cost me like $300 to add those trailers to the insurance for the year. So my expense hasn't been bad. Here we have a load going to Burlington, New Jersey, 704 miles, trailer required, $392 per mile. There's 104 power only, $415 per mile. That's going to West Jefferson. I'm not familiar. 110 a mile, power only, for $427 per mile. 110 a mile, This is, why did I open this? Oh, I was trying to close the other one. Sorry. 427 per mile, 168 miles for 429 miles. That would be power only, sorry. 703 miles, trailer required, heading to Somerset, New Jersey for 376. You'll notice the loads going to Jersey pay better, and they're trailer required loads. The only drawback to going to Jersey is if you're not going to an Amazon location, some of these loads could be farmed out. And Amazon does that where they transport for other companies. I've picked up loads from a vendor and it went to someone else that was not Amazon. I've done a few loads like that for them. And the only drawback to Jersey is you will find a lot of locations are blindside backing. In other words, you show up and you're not going to back up on the driver's side to hit the dock. You're going to back up on the blind side, and it is a little tough sometimes. I did have a driver damage a truck because he just couldn't see, and he smashed the back of the cab with the trailer. And so be aware of that. Jersey's kind of known for that. You pull up an alleyway and your dock is kind of inside of a building and you got to back up on the passenger side. Did I skip this? 23 miles, power only, going to Hebron, Kentucky, and that pays $16.13 per mile. 23 miles, power only, pays $15.75. Obviously, the really short ones, guys, they're going to bump up the price because no one's going to go over there for $3 a mile to move a trailer 3 miles, right? 42 miles at power only for $9.89 per mile. 74 miles at $6.27 per mile. There you have a 23 mile for $16.23. There's 24 miles for $17.30. There is 535 power only, heading to Huntley. I'm not really sure where that is. And this is a full-blown tour. It has multiple stops. But your ending point will be in Illinois. And this one pays $268. So in a day and an hour, you'll make $1,400, but you're going to work for it. You know, you're going to do a lot of dropping hooks. You know, I'm not afraid of work. You know, if it's going to pay, you know, it is what it is. You know, the upside to this particular load is, well, no, it is 500 miles. I was going to say you're not going to burn a lot of fuel, but you're still going to travel 500 miles. So that one's, you know, that one is one that I would take if I had nothing else on the table. 855 miles heading to Monroe, Ohio. This is a power only at $1.88 per mile. Here is 936 miles on a trailer required heading to Dallas. Now that one's going to that FTW1. You know, if you get there early, they're going to tell you to come back at your appointment time. And then when you come back at your appointment time, they're going to hold you for like 6 or 7 hours. And you're going to sit in line for 3 or 4 hours. So if you have like a 10 o'clock at night unload appointment, you won't be leaving there till 6 in the morning. Anyway, it pays $2.89 per mile. And you need to bring your own trailer. There's 162 miles. This is a power only. Wilmington, Ohio for $3.53 per mile. And now I know these departure locations aren't immediately close to the place where we selected. Again, the problem is, when you set a 100-mile radius, you include other areas, and in this part of the country, states are smaller than, say, compared to in Texas or, California, where you could set a 150-mile radius and you're still in the same state. But, for the sake of trying to show you what's in your market, the upside is there's a lot of facilities within 100 square miles, and so you just got to pick and choose which ones have the better paying activity. So here's a trailer required heading to Pennsylvania, 303 for 589 miles. I'd jump on that. That's 1786, and you make that in a day. That's work right there. 589 miles, 12 hours and 6 minutes is what they say it's going to take you. 303 miles, you make 1786. I'd do that. 150 miles, this is a 4-stop round trip little tour, pays $253 on a power only. There's 1507 miles going to Charles, I think that's Missouri. It's a team's load, $204 per mile. 511 miles, power only. This is a round trip from Indianapolis back to Indianapolis. Pays $251 on the miles. That's not bad for a power only. In a day, you make $1,200. It's power only, so you don't have, like you guys like to consider, the maintenance of the trailer and so on. That if you had loads like that every day on power only, I might have stayed with power only. 296 on the miles, heading to Joliet, Illinois. The other day I heard someone pronounce this differently, so I don't know if I'm even butchering that. You have 224 miles. That's not bad pay, but it takes up your whole day. So here's another little round trip, 138 on the miles, 225 per mile. So in 5.5 hours, you make $311. 603 miles for a trailer required heading to Charlotte. 282 per mile. The Charlotte area is pretty barren for freight. So if you have your own trailer and you go there, you'll probably be looking to a different load board to find an outbound load from there. Every time we've gone to Charlotte, I'll also tell you that CLT2, their people can be difficult. I had a driver pull up there. He had a shorted starter, and when he pulled up, he told them, "Hey, my starter is shorted." They were insisting he turn off his truck. And he told the person 3 times, "If I stop my truck, it's not going to start again." And they insisted he shut off his truck. The guy even yelled at him. So he shuts off the truck, and now he's blocking their entrance. And it was blocked until we were able to get a tow truck to come pull the truck out of there. And the manager was yelling at the driver and even yelled at me over the phone. And I'm like, you guys should have had him move out of your driveway, come talk to you and pull in. You created this, not me. But yeah, I've since heard these people are difficult. If you're going to go there, bring your patience. You're going to need it. There is a trailer required load, 936 on the miles, going to FTW1. Bring your patience there as well. 289 per mile for $2,700. It's not a bad paying load. $3,000 in a day and a half. It's good money, but just consider that extra half a day you're going to spend getting unloaded. You'll still make $3,000 in 2 days, but just don't think you're going to get out of there quick. 191 on the miles. This is for a power only load heading. It's a round trip out of Jefferson. That's at 237 per mile. Here we have 432 on the miles power only. This is heading down to Brownstown. I don't know what the Michigan? Yeah, it's Michigan. Sorry guys, I sometimes forget my states. That's horrible. For $1.98 per mile. This is a pretty active market. There's quite a bit of work. Haven't seen much box truck activity. Here's a power only team load, 632 on the miles, 199 per mile. There's 1244 miles on a power only. This is a round trip tour. It's going to take you a day and 5 hours. 178 on the miles. You make $2,200 in, a day and a half. So there's 683 on the miles. This is a power only heading to Virginia. 253, $1,700. That's not too bad. Here you have 419 on the miles, power only, 268 per mile. Not too bad either. 159 miles for a power only, heading to Caledonia. 214 on the miles. There's 743 miles on a trailer required load. This is heading to Jersey. 285 per mile. 538 miles on a power only load. This is heading from Jefferson to Indianapolis. 245 per mile. This is a load that was locked previously, and it's a tour, even though it's not round trip. It has multi-stops. There is 1920 miles on a power only. This is a round trip tour. It's a solo tour, 193 per mile. 655 miles on a power only. This is a round trip tour. You'll do it in a day and a half for 167 per mile. 1950 miles on a power only load. This is another tour, solo, for 203 per mile. There's your first box truck. 221 miles. This will take you 6 hours and 41 minutes to complete, according to them. Now keep in mind, it's not 6:41 to complete your day. That's till you get to your furthest point, and then you still have to drive back. I kind of neglected to bring that up when I did the breakdown of the mileage. I didn't break down the time. I didn't compare the time and put into account your deadhead time driving back. Anyways, it pays $202 a mile. There is a power only at $364 per mile. It's a round trip solo tour, single day, 206 per mile. There's another box truck, 177 miles, 181 per mile, heading to Huntington. There's 231 miles for another box truck, 174 per mile. There's 176 miles on a box truck, paying $224 per mile. 170 miles box truck for $204 per mile. 148 miles on a box truck, paying $232 per mile. There's another box truck, 163 miles, paying $225 per mile. 148 miles, a box truck at $223 per mile. There is a power only, 652 miles at $266. That's not a bad paid load for a power only. There's 163 miles for a box truck, paying $201 per mile. There's another box truck, 196 miles, paying $190 per mile. We have another box truck load at 159 per mile. 159 miles at $211 per mile. Another box truck at 150 miles, we're doing $2.28 per mile. 164 miles for a box truck, $2 a mile. There's 195 per mile, 195 miles on a box truck at 185 per mile. There's 131 miles for a box truck, paying $236 per mile. 174 miles for a box truck, paying $199 per mile. 144 miles for a 26-foot box truck, paying $208 per mile. 148 miles for a box truck, paying $228 per mile. There is 1,600 miles power only. This is a round trip loop for a solo, paying $192 per mile. There's 145 miles for a box truck, $231 per mile. 162 miles on a box truck, paying $197 per mile. 158 miles for a box truck, paying $195 per mile. 153 miles for a box truck, paying $213 per mile. There is a power only 142 miles, paying $208. That is a round trip short tour that you'll finish in 6 hours. There is 1854 trailer required, 209 miles heading to Henderson, Nevada. That is actually for Amazon. That's usually the easiest way to get to the West Coast. If you're like me and you live on the West Coast and you want to go over the road, with Amazon, your best ways to get back into the West Coast area is you're either going to go to Vegas, Henderson, or Reno, and then from there find a load down into SoCal. You're going to struggle to find loads directly into Ontario or Sacramento from anything east of Phoenix. You're going to be hard pressed to find it, and I say that from experience because that's where I live. So here we have a 622 trailer required load heading to Florence, New Jersey at $284 per mile. 639 miles trailer required heading to Pennsylvania at $249 per mile. 639 miles trailer required, also heading to, I think this is the same place, $249. There's, same load. There's another load to Henderson, Nevada, trailer required, 1848 on the miles, $209. This load will probably go up tomorrow night. I'd like to see it closer to 270, personally. There's a power-only load, 105 miles. It's a short little 5-drop tour. It's just under $3 a mile. And looks like there's just about the same thing, 105 miles at $325 per mile. There's a 1848 mile trailer required heading to Nevada, $209. See, and so when they have multiple ones like this, if this one and the other ones are shipping from the same place, they'll definitely go up, because people have learned to play that waiting game. And when there's multiples, it's easy to wait and watch one of them go up, and then you kind of gauge at what point someone booked it, so you know to wait for that point. Um, I know it sounds silly, but if you watch it go up and it went up to 275 and that's when someone booked it, you kind of know the minute you see 275, book it, because if you don't, someone else will. And so that's kind of how you play that particular game. There is a power only load for 1750 miles. This is a round trip tour solo for 179 per mile. I'm sorry, 197. My dyslexia kicked in. There's another 1544 power only round trip for 192 per mile. There's 176 miles trailer. I'm sorry, this is a power only for 168 per mile. Here is 195 miles for a box truck, paying 182 per mile. There is 2536 miles trailer provided. This is a round trip tour. It's a solo, paying 190. And with that, I think we're going to jump on to the next market we're going to cover. We're into Friday. This market is also pretty active. It does have a handful of box truck loads. Now, if you live in Indianapolis, you know, the problem is not all of your loads are going to be right within Indianapolis. Let me knock this down to like 25 miles. And, you know, it went from 100 and change down to 53. But it still is a pretty active market. If I'm gonna say Amazon is my client and that's the only thing I'm gonna service, even though they're further away, it's good to have an abundance of locations. So if one slows down, you can shuffle over to another one and work it, even if it means your short tours bring you home at the end of every day and you still sleep in the truck instead of driving home. You still have work to choose from, is what I'm trying to say. In Southern California, you kind of have to go to the Ontario area or you're not going to have work. You're going to have to travel a couple hundred miles, either go to Vegas or go to Northern California to find work. So in the Indianapolis market, you are kind of fortunate. There's more locations within 100 miles. LA, I just did LA and I've done LA extensively. Someone asked if I can do kind of show the tours more, like what locations they actually go to. So I'm going to try and do a couple of them quickly. These are a little bit harder to review because it just takes a little longer. But I'll open up a couple just so you can get an idea of what they are. This one's from Mira Loma. And so if we open these up, this goes to the City of Industry. Then, you know, you pick up another one in City of Industry. Then you go to Nevada. And then from Nevada, you come back to Mira Loma. So on this one, we start in Mira Loma, head out to Hawthorne, drop, pick one up in Hawthorne, go to Rosemead, pick up another one in Rosemead, head out to Ontario, drop and pick one in Ontario, and then you come back to Riverside for yet another one, and then you finish your day back in Mira Loma. This one here just has a couple drops. So you start off in San Bernardino, you head out to Vegas, drop and hook in Vegas, and you come back to San Bernardino. This one you start in Mira Loma, head out to Eastville, which is, it's a very short drive. Eastville's right there in the same area. Do a drop and hook, head over to Irvine, another drop and hook, and then you come back to Mira Loma. This one starts in Moreno Valley, which is ONT6. There can be lines at ONT6. The few times I've been there, the line is out on the street. So you go from there over to Paris, do a drop and hook in Paris, go to Stockton, do a drop and hook in Stockton, go to Manteca or Manteca, as we Mexicans would say, do a drop and hook there, go to San Diego, drop and hook in San Diego, and then back up to Moreno Valley. This one's in Bakersfield. Now, Bakersfield is within 100 miles of LA, so it shows it in the market, but odds are if you live in the Inland Empire, you're probably not going to try and commute across the LA basin and down the Grapevine to get it. But for the sake of we're already here, so from Bakersfield, you head out to Ontario, and the KONT, KON is the Ontario airport that Prime services. So this is going to be going to the actual airport. So you would be picking up in Bakersfield, going to the Ontario airport, do a drop and hook at the Ontario airport, then go to KLAX2, which is in Chino, do a drop and hook in Chino, and then you would head to Henderson, Nevada, do a drop and hook in Henderson, and then come back to Bakersfield. This next one starts in Mira Loma. So Mira Loma, you would pick one up, haul out to Chino, do a drop and hook in Chino, head out to Stockton, California. From Stockton, you do a drop and hook, come back to Fresno, drop and hook in Fresno, and come back to Hawthorne, drop and hook there, and come back to end your trip in Mira Loma. Here's another Mira Loma. So you start in Mira Loma, head to Chino, drop and hook in Chino. From there you head to Hawthorne, drop and hook in Hawthorne. Then you head back to Mira Loma, drop and hook there, head out to National City, drop and hook, and then back to Mira Loma. So there's kind of a sample of what your loops are typically like. This is, in my opinion, the short ones are too cheap for the headache and fighting all the LA traffic. The longer ones are sometimes okay. You know, if you don't want to leave California and you don't want to deal with all of that, you're still going to have to most likely run an ELD, because there's going to be days where there's no loads to run just the little short stuff within the LA basin. And so you're probably going to have to eventually take stuff going up to Stockton or Sacramento or whatever and back. Just keep in mind, to work for Amazon, even if you think, well, California and Texas are big enough states where I can run intrastate and not deal with apportion tags and IFTA and everything else. You can run, for example, in California, what they call weighted plates instead of the apportioned. And in Texas, you can run combination plates instead of apportioned. But Amazon will still require that you have an interstate authority. In other words, you're going to need a motor carrier authority even if you never leave the state. They will not accept you if you're in California and you get a California authority, in other words, what's known as a CA number. They will not accept you with only the CA number. You're going to have a motor carrier authority issued by the FMCSA. So if you're thinking you're going to kind of avoid some headache, you're not. They used to accept them that way. And I think their legal team determined that even if you're hauling a load from within the state to within the state, so let's say in Texas you go from San Antonio to Houston, odds are it's still interstate commerce, because a lot of that stuff did not come from within the state of Texas from when they purchased it to when they deliver it to the client. So it's technically still interstate commerce, and it's a secondary reason why, if anyone wants to drive for Amazon, Amazon will not hire you if you're under 21, because any package within your vehicle could be involved in interstate commerce, and you cannot hire someone under the age of 21 to be involved in interstate commerce, even if they're only driving within your home state. I know that sounds funky, but I've read the verbiage on the FMCSA site, and the way it reads, that's how you interpret it. And I'm sure one of the legal beagles at Amazon, clued in on this, and that's kind of how they structure it. Anyways, guys, I believe I covered the cities I was going to try and do today. I know this video got pretty long. My apologies. I'm probably not going to post up another video like this for a while. I'm going to be driving most of the day, heading home, do a little catching up with the family. We're having a little get together for my daughter's birthday. And I know I keep sharing personal stuff, but honestly, guys, if you watch my videos and listen to my ramblings, it's kind of like we're getting to know a little bit about each other anyways. And so I share a little bit of the human side of Tex Garcia with you guys. I hope everyone is doing well, staying safe. Those of you that are trying to get into this, I wish you luck. Those of you that are already involved in the trucking and are trying to get on with Amazon, I'll do my best to share with everyone what I see. Sometimes I know my two-bit opinions don't mean anything to most of you, and that's fine. I don't take offense. And if someone doesn't agree with me, you're going to start your own trucking business and run it your way. You're not going to run it my way, because at the end of the day, the checking account that either has money in it or just went negative is yours. No one knows better how to run your business than you. What I share is based on, experiences that I've had, some of them good, some of them not so good. And, I share my thoughts. I know I kind of beat up on the box truck thing. I'm going to look into that other load board. If it's not a service that you have to pay for, I'm going to see if I can't send them over my insurance and whatnot and get access to it. And maybe I'll do some demos on that. That could be the part of that could be the component that's missing for you box truck guys. I keep saying, if you're going to take a 200-mile load and it takes you 200 miles away from home, and now you're dead heading back, your load isn't a 200-mile load, it's a 400-mile load, and you're being paid for 200. That's the main point I'm trying to get across. And, I know some of you don't agree with me. I saw a couple, thumbs down. I'm not trying to battle with you guys. I'm trying to point out the reality of, you're going to find yourself holding that steering wheel, running empty for 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours coming back from doing this work, and you're not being paid for that part. And so I'm going to see over the next couple days, between, catching up at home, some office work and everything else that I do when I've been away like this. I'm going to see if I can't get access to that load board that one of the viewers mentioned. And if there's something promising in there, I'll do the same thing where I do a screen recording, show you guys, what's there. In some markets, it could be like a great way to get money coming back. If your delivery is into a market where one of these load boards has an abundance of loads, then it might be feasible. And in fact, it might even be at that point a great investment, because your buy-in on a box truck could be 10 to 15 grand. And if you're getting $2 a mile going out, and you're getting $2 or better a mile coming back, that's not too bad. Now all of a sudden I'd say, okay, most of these loads, guys, when I say that's no good, if you could get paid for the mileage coming back, that changes everything. So you get yourself a 250-mile load going out, and you can finish that in 6 or 7 hours, and you can get yourself one coming back, and you finish it within your 1-day tour or your 1-day, shot or whatever. So let's just say you do 500 to 600 miles. Let's just say it's 600 miles, and you can get better than $2 a mile. All of a sudden you're in that $1,200 a day range. For I say $1,000 is kind of where I want to be. Some of my overhead will be the same as yours in a box truck. You still have to have that commercial liability insurance, and it's not cheap. It doesn't matter if you have a box truck, a pickup truck doing hot shots, or a semi truck. It's not cheap. But all of a sudden you're getting in that $2 a mile or better range going both ways, and your buy-in was 10 to 15,000, and you're not wearing out 18 tires, you're wearing out 6. Now all of a sudden you're on to something. Now I would say it's worth looking into. And so I'm going to check out that other load board that one of the viewers suggested. Again, thank you for that. I'll see if I can't get access to it. If they try to tell me, oh yeah, we charge a fee, yada yada yada, I may not do it just for the sake of making YouTube videos. I mean, if I was like monetizing the account and there was money coming in, I'd say, you know what, let's take some of that YouTube money and just pay for the monthly subscription or whatever it is. But, if they're going to try and tell me it's, $100 a week or whatever, then I'm not going to do it just for the sake of putting it up on the channel. But if I can get on there for free, like getting on Amazon is free. Getting on Uber is free. Getting on a lot of these load boards is free, with the exception of like DAT. And so I quit paying for those because, my dispatch service pays for that. And they have access to those boards. So why should I pay for it? I'm already paying them. Anyway, but like I say, if I can put that together and all of a sudden some markets make a ton of sense, I'll make a video showing that. And that may be for you box truck guys, the difference between losing money and having a profitable venture. Then it may make sense to buy multiple trucks, because again, now you're buying them cheap, 15 grand. You buy yourself 3 of them, you're at 45 grand. That's about what most people pay for, let's say, a 4 or 5 year old used Cascadia, and they only got 1 truck. And so now all of a sudden a box truck idea could make sense. Now you might convince me. Anyway, I'm rambling. I need to hit the road, guys. It's time to start moving and go see the family. Anyways, thanks for watching as always. Sorry this video got so darn long, but I did want to get some market covered and answer some comments that I just haven't had time to get to. Thanks, guys.